Well, hi again, everybody, and welcome to another episode of 100 Yards of Football. I'm Harper LaBelle, and today our Legends feature will be of someone who I'm sure you'll recognize the name. You certainly will recognize the family name. We're going to talk about Elijah Archibald Manning III. Yes, he is the third. This is Archie Manning. This is Dad. And we're going to talk a little bit about him today with Logan Landers, our producer and engineer, and Vincent Turner, our co-host and founder. Vincent, today we're going to talk about one of the great legends that Ole Miss has had. A lot of good players have come out of Ole Miss, but this is one of those guys that really kind of set the tone. He arrives there and doesn't play his freshman year, but boy, in the 3 years since, it was complete magic and a turnaround for a football organization, a school that has really struggled to keep its head above water in a very competitive SEC manner. But Archie Manning was certainly one of the guys to make it happen.
Very, very special person to my heart. Me growing up in Memphis, Tennessee, and with the Ole Miss campus about 50 miles from downtown Memphis, you can imagine me picking up the sports page of the Commercial Appeal, learning how to read. Leading up to 1967, everything was about Archie Manning being the greatest football player that ever came out of the state of Mississippi. And what's so ironic, he's from Drew, Mississippi. That's 24 miles from my mother's hometown, Mrs. Inez Turner, who's from Sunflower. So I know it's something in the water down there in Drew, because down there, the land is hot, it's nasty. And when you talk about poor country and poor getting it in and poor working hard, it's no place like that. And Archie Manning was the first, I would say, athletic, listen to what I'm saying, athletic quarterback to play on the college level. Back to you, Hawk.
Yeah, we'll talk about that because he certainly could do it all, and we'll show you why here in just a second. Elijah Archibald Manning III, born on May 19th, 1949. He's 76 years old. He was born in Drew, Mississippi, which you mentioned, small little town. If you go look it up right now, I can't even find the high school field. It's just a small little town. There's one gym, but he found it as a young athlete. He played football, basketball, one amazing baseball player. We'll talk a little bit about that. He could hit a ball, and he also ran track. So he did a little bit of everything. Now, his mother, Jane Elizabeth, and his father, Elijah Archibald, they enjoyed watching him play. Dad couldn't go to all the games because of work, but Mom did, and she was there all the time to watch her young boy play and to showcase what he could do. And as a four-sport guy, and kind of leading the way for the Manning family in this small little town in Mississippi, he started making a name for himself. 6'3", about 215 pounds, which is a good size for back in the 50s and 60s for a young boy. So he was strong, fast, he was quick, and he wasn't afraid, if you know what I mean. He could take a hit. Strong arm because of baseball. And that correlated over to his football. He was a quarterback now, and he's a guy that could carry the ball in a time where you didn't throw a whole heck of a lot. But when you did, you wanted to pick up some big gains. You could suck up the linebackers, maybe the safeties, one step out of position, and go over the top with play-action passes. He certainly impressed a lot of folks, Vincent. He ends up getting a scholarship to go to Mississippi, stay close to home. It's probably an hour and a half, maybe, in a car ride to go from Drew to Oxford, but just far enough to be away from Mom, but close enough to where on the weekends you could have her come. Well, you could actually take your laundry to her and maybe get a biscuit or a nice sandwich or something like that for Mom, and a home cooked meal. But very rural beginnings for this young man, and met with a little bit of tragedy along the way too.
Yeah, I remember. Of course, he opened up his sophomore year. His first game, he started against Memphis State at the time, and Memphis State had a real good team, and Ray Jameson and Danny Pearson. And I remember one play out of the game. Ole Miss won that football game 21-7, but he had a 44-yard run in that game. And I said, ooh, athletic ability, a little speed there. And I kind of take it to now. That was a little what his grandson is going to do at Texas, Arch. Had that type of athletic ability. But like I said, Archie Manning, we could talk about Ole Miss football from Charlie Connolly to Jay Gibbs to Charlie Flowers. But when you mention Ole Miss football, and I know his son Eli played there, he is the greatest player that ever came out of the state of Mississippi that played at Ole Miss. And it's 2 games, I'm going to let you take us to those games, that really solidified his career while he's in college.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, when he graduates from high school, during his senior year, he gets drafted by the Braves. He gets drafted by the White Sox 2 separate times, and then by the Royals between 1967 and 1971. So every year, even though he's not making that his number one sport, baseball is something special for him, and he could play, and people notice that. 1967, he's a freshman at Mississippi, and back then you couldn't play your freshman year. So 68 is his first year, and as a sophomore, they go 7-3-1. They go 3-2-1 in the SEC, and they go to the Liberty Bowl, and they end up winning that ball game, 34-17 against VPI, which is Virginia Polytechnic Institute, which is now Virginia Tech. They played number 8 Georgia. They played number 13 Tennessee, number 17 Alabama. They played number 19 LSU. They played number 16 Auburn. And what an amazing sophomore year, and really the first chance you get to see this young man on the field. And the folks in Oxford, my goodness, they had nothing but the highest of accolades. I think it changed the momentum there of the program. I think you get more season ticket holders that people want to go and have a great time there in Oxford on the Grove. But 7-3-1, and they end up unranked because those 3 losses, but making a move. Everyone in the conference was ahead of them, so they didn't make it in the top 25, but they were turning heads.
His junior year was the 100th year of college football.
Yep.
And if you notice, all the players wore the 100 emblem on their helmets. There's 2 games that stick out that year, which I consider his greatest season in his college career. The Alabama game, October the 4th, 1969. First game, I believe, that was televised in prime time from Legion Field. And I remember the game started at 8:30 that evening Central Standard Time, and didn't really end till, I want to say, midnight, which would have been 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. But boy, did he put on the show. And listen to this. I think that record stood in the SEC for almost 35 years, until a gentleman by the name of Johnny Manziel broke the record. Don't quote me on that, but I believe it. That evening, he had 436 yards and 3 touchdowns passing. He had another 104 yards on the ground. And let me tell you something, Ole Miss didn't have that many talented players. And then later on that year, Ole Miss 5-3, ranked 18th in the country. November 15th, 1969. They're playing the Tennessee Volunteers. If you was a Tennessee native resident in the state of Tennessee, you loved that football team. And that team right there had the greatest chance leading in Tennessee football history to win the national championship. Had some great players, the late Steve Cannon, Jack Hacksaw Reynolds, Jackie Walker, Lester McLean, Bobby Scott, Kurt Watson, who became a pilot in the Air Force. And the reason I say that, I listened to all the Tennessee games faithfully. And I was so confident as a 9-year-old. I went out to work with my dad that Saturday day. I get back, it's at halftime. So I'm running to the radio. The game is being broadcast on 560 WREC in Memphis. And I just knew Tennessee was on top. And the great John Wood, one of the greatest voices in college football, said, it's halftime. Ole Miss 24, Tennessee 0. My heart dropped, my stomach upset, and them tears started coming down because I could not believe it. And Tennessee ended up winning that game. Ole Miss winning that game 38-0. And it was a lot of smack talking before that game because Steve Cannon came out and said some things to All-American linebacker. Actually, he called Archie Manning dumb and called the Ole Miss players mules, instead of horses. Because the previous year, Tennessee had beat Ole Miss in Knoxville 31-0, and Archie Manning threw 7 interceptions that game. But found out later, that was the game that Mr. Manning had circled on his calendar. And that Tennessee team had won every game up till then. And that crushed all the hearts of the people in the state of Tennessee. And then to really make matters worse, Doug Dickey stepped down at the end of the year and took the Florida Gators job because he was a Florida alum. And then Bill Battle replaced him. But those one of those times that it's never going to leave me because that Tennessee team was headed to play Notre Dame. And I saw national championship all over the place in the state of Tennessee. But Archie who? I learned that day, Archie Manning from Drew, Mississippi is the man. Back to you, Hart.
Well, for a different reason, the tears were flowing there for Archie during that summer of '69. His father committed suicide, and Archie was at home and the first one to reach his dad after it happened. So pretty much a complete change in his life. He wanted to quit football and just go work and make some money to help support his mom. She said, "We'll be okay. You know, I want you to play. I want you to get your degree. I want you to, you know, make the kids and the fans of Mississippi happy." And so he dedicated that year to his father, and they were Sugar Bowl champs there in '69. For time, I'm going to go very briefly through this. In 1970, they were 7-4. They were 4-2 in the SEC. They go to the Gator Bowl and they play Alabama. They lose 35-28 in a close game down in Jacksonville. But success was certainly evident and repeatable while he was there at Mississippi. 2 bowl wins, 1 loss. All 3 years that he's eligible to play, he does so. He ends up becoming the second player taken in the 1971 draft. Jim Plunkett was first. All kinds of quarterbacks between Dan Pastorini and Ken Anderson. Even Joe Theismann was drafted in the 4th round by Miami. But the Saints picked him up second in the 71 draft. And, you know, that 71 team that the Saints had, that's the year that Tom Dempsey kicks that 63-yard field goal. And that's pretty much the highlight that the Saints had. They weren't very good, Vincent. They struggled for years. They were 4-8-2, 2-11, 2-11-1, 5-9, 5-9, 2-12 in the first 5 years. So there's a whole lot of problems in New Orleans. They didn't have a whole lot of offensive linemen to protect him. And Archie would end up having a little bit of fun with this. Jack Youngblood from the LA Rams, during his induction into the NFL Hall of Fame, said, I was able to do a lot of great things in the National Football League. And then they asked Archie what he felt about that. And he goes, well, yeah, most of the time he was sacking me. If he didn't sack me as many times, he probably wouldn't have got in. But he had an amazing career, and he owes it all to me for all the tremendous amount of times that he was able to get me. But New Orleans was a great experience for him. He is obviously the cornerstone of the franchise. When you think about the early Saints, you go straight to him. Vincent, your thoughts here about Archie and his time there in New Orleans?
Went to a bad organization. I'll tell you this, I got a lot of respect for him because he stayed there for a while, endured a lot of pain, a lot of losses. But hey, look how it worked out for him on the end of his career and then through his children. And I think Archie Manning, when you look at his career at Ole Miss with the New Orleans Saints, he's kind of lived a real quiet, classy life. I would really like to meet him and shake his hand, because even though his career didn't go well, I guarantee you this, I would be proud if I had 2 sons with 4 Super Bowl rings, one in the Hall of Fame and one of them that played at a high level at the University of Tennessee, another one that played at the high level at the University of Mississippi. And his oldest son, Cooper, was the best athlete out of all of them. Unfortunately, he had an injury that ended his football career in 1990 at Ole Miss. But now his son, Archie, is getting ready to take the torch and take the Texas Longhorns to higher heights. Archie Manning has lived a great life, man. What more can you say? I got respect for him. And think about this, he's from Drew, Mississippi. I tell y'all all the time, don't go to sleep on the state of Mississippi. They no joke. Back to you, Harp.
Yeah, absolutely. Drew, Mississippi certainly has nothing to be ashamed of when you look at the success that he has had, his sons have had. And I'm glad you mentioned Cooper. There's a picture that we have coming up here of the importance Cooper, obviously with a spinal stenosis diagnosis, didn't get a chance to play. It was going into his freshman year at Ole Miss. Of course, Eli goes to Ole Miss as well. He has a great 16-year career in the National Football League. The Mannings are basically NFL royalty because of what Peyton and Eli were able to do, but Cooper was a part of that as well. Congratulations to Miss Olivia. They met in college, and what an amazing family they have from an athletic standpoint for college and for professional football. He was UPI NFC Player of the Year in 1978, the Sporting News Player of the Year that year as well, 2 times Pro Bowler. He's in the Ring of Honor with the Saints. He's in the Hall of Fame with the Saints. And even though during the end of that 1982 season, when he was kind of with the Saints and then gets traded over to Houston during that strike year, really didn't get to say goodbye. Nobody has issued number 8 out in a New Orleans uniform. So it's been unofficially retired, so to speak. But Gator Bowl Hall of Fame, Sugar Bowl Hall of Fame. He's in the College Football Hall of Fame. He is Archie Manning, and we want to applaud him for all the great things that he was able to do. Final thoughts here, Vincent.
One of the greatest has ever done it at a high level, both in college and professional football. Like you just said, Harper, the Manning family is royalty of the NFL and college football. Look at the success. The young man has had 2 sons with 4 Super Bowl rings. And one of his sons beat the greatest quarterback to ever play the game twice in the Super Bowl. Twice in the Super Bowl. And his name is Eli. Back to you, Harp.
Well, for Logan Landers, for Vincent Turner, I'm Harper LaBelle, and we do want to honor Archie Manning for the toughness, the grit, the stick-to-itiveness in the fight that he's had for both personal and professional reasons. He has proven himself to be a worthwhile candidate for someone who we consider him to be a legend for so many different reasons. So thank you for being a part of today's show. We appreciate it greatly. We want to say thank you for tuning in to 100 Yards of Football. This has been our legacy show. So on behalf of Vincent, Logan, and myself, just want to say have a great day, everybody. We appreciate it.